Wonderful. So thank you so much for taking this opportunity to join us on Digital Davos 2023. Let me welcome Dr. Sangeeth Varghese, and I will turn this panel over to him as this is a special panel and I don't want to take anything away from it. All I will say is we greatly enjoyed this panel last year at Digital Davos, and we are privileged to have all three of you back. So please take it from here.
Thank you very much, Anand. It is always a pleasure to join you back at the Digital Davos, which is a significant event which is happening across the world. And along with me, I've got my fellow panelists, Dr. Tomasz Landes and Dr. Karine Sargassian. And we would be talking about the world in 2050 at this point of time. So the first question which I would start up with is that what is the context? Why is a future important? And we would see that across history, the prediction of the future has always been a topic which has been at most bearing in the minds of people. And when I say the minds of people, the kings and the commoners alike. The kings would like to predict how their empires would be, how their kingdoms would be, whether they would win a war, whether they would establish themselves as a bigger emperors of the world. While at the same time, the commoners were more interested in the matters which are of concerning to them. So it has always been bearing in our minds, while in the present time, it is not just the individuals who are interested in the future, but also the governments, but also the corporations. We see the huge furor which is going around about the new chat GPT, the AI engine which has come in, and how it is going to interfere in knowledge workers like our lives, how it would change our lives, how it would take over our lives. And this is exactly where the research which I have been doing along with my colleagues, Dr. Tomasz and Dr. Karine, about the future of our world in 2050. And as both my eminent fellow authors would take over the discussion in a moment from now, this is a different research. This is a different book that would be published, because this is rather than three people sitting down and writing a book through clairvoyance, as most of the futurists would end up doing. This would absolutely not be so. This would be the result of crowdsourcing. We have reached out to almost 101 experts in their fields, whether it is medicine, whether it is communication, whether it is transportation, whether it is leadership, geopolitics, you name it. We have reached out to the experts in those fields, and we have figured out from them their version of the future. So rather than being our version of the future, this book, this research is more about the experts' version of the future. And why is this important, being a crowdsourced one? Because we realize that how much ever experts we are, how much ever we could know about the subject and the subjects of our expertise, being a single person, we could always go wrong. Being a single person, there could always be bias, there could always be extremities. So this is exactly where the crowdsourcing of the experts come in. So which actually leads me to the first question, which I would ask my colleague, Dr. Tomasz Landes. So what according to you, Tamaj, some of the top line findings from your research? What sets it apart?
Thank you very much, Sangeeth, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone who is listening to us. I'm joining you from Lyon, France, not too far away from Davos, the real Davos, the physical Davos. So it has been an incredibly rewarding experience to work with both Dr. Sangeeth and Dr. Karina on this book. We have indeed had a glimpse into the laboratories of scientists, of thinkers, of innovators over the past few years. And here's a very quick summary of where they think we are getting in 2050, about 30 years from now. So first, we are transitioning to become a multi-planetary species. And this is due to obvious inherent risk of a large asteroid at one point hitting our planet. In order to guarantee our existence in the future, we need to look at ways how to move to a different planet. So self-replicating robots in this sense could help us build a new human habitat on another planet. Then the second point is brain and human interfaces combined with exoskeletons, which you can already see today, will be a game changer on how we interact with each other as well, especially in 30 years from now. The internet may transform into a brain net, able to send emotions instead of emojis, revolutionizing human interactions as we know it today, communication, entertainment as well. And third, nanomedicine will reform healthcare, including cancer treatments. For example, your toilet will be able to tell you, what problems you have, will be able to defend you from cancer, and detect initial cancer colonies circulating in your body, for instance. This will allow timely treatment and also eradication of all type of cancers and other diseases. So we, by doing this book, we didn't want to stop by publishing yet another book, but rather to start a movement which we call World 50.0. And the aim of this movement is to connect to other similar movements that work in a kindred spirit towards creating a better future, a better future faster, a future that we can leave to our children and grandchildren to inherit. We asked a question which I found the most rewarding question of all, on how should we prepare this next generation, our children, for the future. And the most important skills that are needed according to all our contributors are such as embracing change, adaptability, enduring in difficult situations, in conditions, collaborating with each other. And I think this is one of the most important ones that has been also underlined by Professor Schwab today at the opening of the Davos 2023 meeting. Global collaboration and understanding and solidarity is a very highly demanded attribute today and in the upcoming years to create a better future. Finally, a highly sophisticated problem-solving skill will be required in all walks of life. And we have included in the book a self-administered survey, which can be used to measure your future readiness, your future intelligence. So I would invite all our listeners to get a free copy as soon as the book is out. It will be open source, and we want to spread the ideas as much as possible. Over to you.
In fact, what I loved about the way you were putting it across, Tamaj, is the fact that one single aspect actually struck me, which is about the book is about, or rather the research is about, what is the kind of world which we would like to leave for the next generation. That really struck a chord with me. More than being a pseudoscience, which is trying to predict the flying cars and the miracle pills and the square tomatoes in the world, which could go wrong at any point of time, but rather your research is about looking at what are the changes that we should be rolling out, or rather we should be predicting, or rather we should be preparing our next generation towards. So which actually brings me to the next question. So if that's what you are trying to do through your research, what are the kind of geopolitical changes that you expect? Because we are living in a tumultuous world. We are seeing so many geopolitical tensions which are happening around the world, whether it is Ukraine, whether it is Russia, whether it is the oil crisis which is going on. So what are the kind of geopolitical stress points which you would like to point out?
Yeah, sure, Sangeeth. Just very quickly, because I'm also aware of the time, and geopolitics is a very big issue, right? Very big topic that we could spend a long time discussing. Today, I was listening to some of the Davos panels, and they also are very much talking about where the geopolitics at the moment is, how the different crises, both COVID or the Russian war, etc., are impacting our global society and geopolitics in general. Many talk about global fragmentation, about unprecedented levels of pressure, geopolitical recession, cyclical downturns. So there's a lot of negativity at the moment. The question is how we can get out of this negative trend and get us stronger out of it. As here in France, they say, get a step back in order to jump longer or higher or further as you move again forward. And that's what we're trying to do with this book. There are many scenarios, different scenarios. That of course futurists and our contributors have painted. There's more positive and less positive scenarios. There's if I want to simplify it very much, the positive scenarios are all based on a global system which is based on similar values, based on common rules that are created, and most likely it's the UN-like instruments would be used and shared. In the negative scenario, less positive scenarios, the common thread is that we'll be splitting between the more totalitarian type of leaders and the more liberal type of leaders, the world, among very, very strong fragmentation and breaking points. But I think the main question is what we can do to contribute towards a more positive future. And let me quote one of my professors who I admire very much, Joseph Nye from Harvard University. He said that if today's trends are left unattended, it could lead to dystopian futures. Smart policy making in the present would be required to ensure that positive future with gains for society at large is attained. And this is where we are today. So the question is how we can embrace that more positive future. And of course, I think in this current time of pressures and pessimism, I think it's very important to infuse in ourselves a sense of optimism and contribute with even small elements towards that more positive future, going backwards and imagining a more positive world, that's in 30 years from in 2050, which was the topic for our books, and retro-engineering that will be much easier, I think, and also make us feel more positive and optimistic than the other way around. Just think of the Moonshot Initiative of President Kennedy, where he set a goal, retro engineering the landing of the first man on the moon in the 60s. It was impossible at that time to reach the moon. He made a speech, and 8 years later, the scientists and everyone else followed suit, and we broke new ground, and we had the first small step that was a huge step for humanity. So with the same spirit, I hope that we can encourage others to move in a similar direction and build a very positive 2050, a future that we can all feel good about and proud of, and our children to be happy. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. In fact, Tomasz, especially again, what I'm taking off from what you've been saying is that, especially the incident about President Kennedy and how he declared out there that he would put the first man on the moon, is that in a way, we kind of create our own futures, whether it is geopolitical, macroeconomic, or I'm going to take a break from the large macroeconomics economic scenario, and I'm going to go across to my good friend Karine Saxian in terms of the micro aspects of it. Right. So if this is exactly how the geopolitical macro aspects turn out, how would the micro aspects turn out to be in 2050? So in terms of communication, in terms of families, what should we be looking at? Would they be families at all? Would we be communicating at all? Or rather we would be holding on to our devices and immersing ourselves to our devices? What do you feel about it, Karina?
It's a very interesting combined question, and I'm going to speak a little bit longer about that because it's you think it is a mini micro aspect, but actually families or the surrounding where our environment where we live is one of the most important aspects of our lives. So what we see from our crowdsourced ideas of 100 of experts that the families will maybe remain. Nevertheless, they will be different as the families we know now. And what is very interesting that we have several experts that think that communication will be much easier, and some that think that communication will be difficult because we will have more channels to communicate, and the amount of the data collected, the amount of the information that we would need to digest will be much higher. But I think that we will have better channels to combine, to pick the important parts of the communication. And, you know, there is a piece from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry that we would look at each other and understand everything. Words will be not important. And so in the future, the communication with our loved ones will be exactly like that. We'll look at each other. I mean, sometimes it is really like that now already, but we will have the channels, the possibilities to do that. We will have the mixed reality. We will have the virtual reality. We would be able to communicate better. If you think back, Tomasz was speaking about the reverse engineering. If we think back 20 years ago, if we would have COVID 20 years ago, we would be not able to communicate so effectively like we did last years, because we have had the tools for that. And in the future, we will have better tools. We will have more direct tools, more real-like tools to be more near to each other. And that would make, in one hand, communication with family easier. In other hand, we would be able to choose our family. We would be able to call family the people we really love and want to have around us, independently of genetically dependence or paper dependence. It sounds maybe not so easy, but it is. And I think in the future, the artificial intelligence will help us even to find those people. Nevertheless, there is a margin between the artificial intelligence and real life. I think the motherhood will be that margin. you cannot change motherhood. And that will be still the basis of the families in the future. Well, I hope that we will communicate more real-like, and the next virtual Davos will be so that we can even touch each other. And nevertheless, I think that our experts are right in one thing, that we will learn to be more precise in our communication, and we will learn to be more kind. And I think kindness is the key to future communication. As kind as we will be, because the technologies brought with them less kindness. Anonymity allows people to be rude. And I think kindness will be the future key and one of the most important features of a human being. Back to you, Sangeeth. Thank you.
No, it's brilliant. I'm so excited listening to you, Karine, because every time I listen to you, I love the passion, I love the life, I love the energy that you bring onto the table, right? And so that's what I enjoy about the entire journey that all three of us are undertaking, which I'm realizing that Tamarsh is based in Europe at this point of time, Karine is based in the US, and I'm based out of India, which is in Asia. So three different continents, three different sets of people, three different interests, and working together and trying to predict the future. So let me at the same time come back to a topic where you hold enormous amount of expertise. Karina also happened to be a medical doctor who have got an enormous amount of expertise in a subject. So I would like to ask about what's going to be the future of medicine? Where are we heading to?
It's a question for my heart. Thank you for that question. And the future of medicine is really the topic that we must think about. I mean, if we really look back to the last 2 years, we were able to very fast to generate a vaccine, which would be not possible, I mean, which would not possible 10 years ago. And the speed of development of the medicine, medical devices and medical technology and biotech in general is incredible even now. Imagine how it will be in 30 years. Our experts in our, combined intelligence of the future with all of our 100 experts or 101 experts predicted that in the future, the health will be contagious, not the disease. And I very much hope that that's the true future of our planet. And what they predicted also, that cancer will be curable like normal influenza, which I very much hope, because this is something that our world is suffering already very long time. The medicine will be like, the diagnostic will be much easier. Nowadays, the diagnostic, although we have incredible amount of tools in laboratory and also, let's say, in radiology and so on, still sometimes, if they are tricky, the diagnostic is so difficult that we have even such kind of a series like Dr. House, where people many days are one after another making some very expensive investigations to find out the right diagnosis. So I think that the future medicine brings three things: easy diagnostic, precise diagnostic, and precision treatment. So the exact treatment for exact patient at exact time, which is required to stay healthy. Well, if it would be possible, we would maybe live 150 years. So I hope. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent, Karina. In fact, one of the things which I realized as we are talking rather than sitting down and writing is also the fact that this book is not just about predicting a few trends in the future. The book is not just about clairvoyance. The book is not just about looking forward to the next 30 years, but rather it is also, like my friend Tamaj refers to it, it's also about mastering future intelligence. So it's not just about the predictions, but it is rather about how do you get those skills, how do you master a certain amount of intelligence, a certain amount of the bend of your mind by which you end up knowing what the future brings about. Which kind of brings me to one of my final questions, which is about how do you think you are going to take this to the next level? This is path-breaking research. This is path-breaking methodology which you are using. But what's next step for you?
Tamaj, are you answering that question?
We have a yeah. I can just say one or two sentences because I'm aware of the time. Yeah. I think one important thing is, of course, to prepare a next generation of leaders, yeah, who can lead us into that future that we discussed now in the last 30 minutes. And one important question that we should ask our children is not what they want to become or be, but what problem in the world they want to solve. That will help us to get there. So thank you. I think that with that, I hand you back because I'm aware of the time, and thank you very much for the opportunity. Karen, maybe you want to complement with your final thought.
And probably Karina could talk a sentence or two about what is coming up in Armenia, what the wonderful work which you're doing back in your homeland.
Sure. First, Tamaj, thank you for that, because I tried that with my daughter, although she's already 21, and she said, wow, I need to think. So, and she's very intelligent. So this is something that really changed minds, and this is something that we really need to ask our kids to think about that. In one hand, in another hand, I think that futurology, we need to call it scientific future prediction, and we need to really crowdsource the ideas to prepare us for that. And well, I think that to set up a scientific future laboratory, we need to have future-prone spaces. And I'm involved in Armenia in a incredibly nice project which is developing a whole part of a country which called Gagarin Valley, after the name of the first person who was in the who went to space. So in this valley, there are people running away because there is nothing to do, and factories were closed and so on. And an initiative group is developing the whole valley, and there will be an academy for sciences, and there will be an institution where a future center will be situated, where we will collect our most important people, crowdsource our ideas, and prepare the world for the future based on the predictions of experts who know already in which direction we are going, and maybe to predict in one hand and to protect us from the big failures. That would be very nice in the first phase, and prepare our young generation to be greater, to be smarter, to be better than we, and to be brighter than we. So than we are. So I think as soon as we are setting up the Future Center, we will invite all people who are speaking at Davos to us to reset with us together the future, no?
Oh, fantastic. Who knows? Probably we would be doing the next digital Davos at the Gagarin Valley rather than in Davos. Who knows? But any which ways, the future is tremendously exciting, and especially hearing from two expert friends of mine, Dr. Tamás Landes and Dr. Karina Saxian. But unfortunately, we should be mindful about the present also, the present time. Right. So here we are, three of us signing off. Sangeeth Varghese from India, Asia. Tamás Landes from France, Europe, and Dr. Karina Saxian from US, the Americas. Three of us signing off and wishing you a wonderful future ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you everybody on the panel. It was a wonderful closing to the second day of Digital Davos. We will see you all tomorrow, all of the moderators, and have a good evening.